What's up, everybody? Welcome into another edition of Crush City Territory. My name is Chandler Rome, along with Tyler Stafford, and we are here to cope. We are here to be your psychiatrists after Buddy Hield cooked the Rockets last night and eliminated them from the Western Conference playoffs, and the Astros lost a series to the Chicago White Sox, which is never a sentence that any team wants to hear, much less an Astros team that is contending or purports itself as a contender for the American League pennant. They didn't finish the last game. The Astros had 6 outs to go. They were down 5-4. The way that they got down 5-4 has kind of been a harbinger of their season. Luis Roberts stole second base on a pitch out from a left-handed pitcher, no less, and then scored the go-ahead run on a single. This team has not held runners well all year. This pitching staff is not good at holding runners. They even knew that Luis Robert was going to steal, and they still could not throw him out. He comes around to score the go-ahead run, and the Astros lose 5-4 in a rain-shortened game. But the story, obviously, Tyler, in that game was not the final result. It was Lance McCullers coming back for the first time in 915 days, pitching in a regular season Major League game. What'd you think of Lance's return?
Man, I was so happy. I had a big smile on the whole time watching him pitch. It took me until about the third inning that I wasn't cringing after every pitch because, it was cold. So he kept like blowing his hand and he would kind of adjust, his pants and wipe it. And each time I was like, oh no, is he hurt? Like did something happen? So it took me a little bit to get into the rhythm of him. But man, so good to see him back out there. Like we talked about with Josh, my only expectation was please just make it through the game and go to the dugout on your own. And he did. And that's all I really cared about. I was very nervous that when the rain started coming, that they were going to call the game in, the middle of the 5th inning and it wouldn't count. And we'd have to readjust our McCullers hasn't pitched in this many days stats, and it would be a weird footnote forever. So I'm glad it counted for that reason. Not glad with the outcome. That was quite frustrating to watch. But yeah, so good to see McCullers back out there.
Yeah, I thought Lance was very pragmatic after the game. He didn't want this to be about his return. He said, look, someone pointed out that was 915 days, and he said he'd be lying if he wasn't excited that he got back from that point. But he also said numerous times, 2 things can be true. I'm happy for the milestone that I got back onto a mound, but he knows he has to get deeper into games. He knows his stuff has to be better. He knows that just to be a viable member of this rotation, starts like that are not going to get it done. Going 3 2/3 innings against what is the worst lineup in the American League, maybe the worst lineup in baseball. The Colorado Rockies have some contention there as being the worst. But I think anyone that expected Lance to come out on Sunday and dominate and see 94, 96 on the board with a ton of great sliders and some wicked breaking balls after 915 days away, I think that's just foolish. Like, he wasn't going to come back and look like the old Lance McCullers right off the bat. I think there's some stuff to like. He got a lot of his outs were weak contact on the ground. I think they only averaged like an 89 mile an hour exit velocity off of him. His changeup looked really good to the point where he was throwing right on right changeups, which you're not throwing right on right changeups unless you feel pretty confident in that pitch. Now, the reason he had to throw so many right on right changeups is because his slider was just not there. He called it an F slider after the game. I don't know if that was a letter grade or the letter that started with the word he wanted to say. But either way, he said it was not good, and that's his main weapon against right-handed hitters. That White Sox lineup had 5 righties in it, but the sinker, the velocity was around 91, 92. He's been around 93, 95 when he's healthy. McCullers said he's tracing this back to 2022 when he came off of a long absence. Then he said his first 3 or 4 starts, then the velocity was about what it was yesterday. And then once he got that accumulation, about that 5th or 6th start, he saw it tick up a little bit. So, Tyler, it just all speaks to the Astros are going to have to be patient with this. This is not going to be McCullers is back to McCullers form in 2 or 3 starts. He's gonna need a little bit of a runway here to build himself up, to get back to normal, quote unquote normal. And he's gonna have that because they're about to go to a 6-man rotation, and he's gonna be a part of it every 6th day.
Yeah, I will admit I was nervous. The first pitch was 90 miles an hour
Yeah.
and yanked about a foot inside. And I was like, uh-oh, what happened? But he touched 94 in the first inning.
Mhm.
And you're right, that changeup, man, like that thing was moving. Was it? I think it was Benintendi in the first inning that he just threw those 2 changeups back to back that were in the middle of the zone. He watched the first one, he swung through the second one, and then threw the classic back foot knuckle curve for a 3-pitch strikeout. And I was like, all right, here we go. That's the Lance I remember. And yeah, I mean the velocity will get there, but like you said, the movement looked pretty good. The slider just wasn't there. He was leaving it up a ton. He couldn't place it where he wanted to. But that'll come with time. It's a feel pitch, and sometimes you have those days. Like I mean, we see that with everybody where good pitchers have to adjust to what they're throwing well that day, and he did, and he got through the day without giving up a run, and that's all you can really ask for in your first start back. But yeah, good to see him out there.
Yeah, I think all in all, his return kind of met. Again, we said on the last pod, like, I'm not sure any of us knew what to expect. I'm not sure the Astros knew what they were going to get on Sunday. I think everyone left. I'm not going to say surprised, but I think everyone left content. Everyone was like, all right, he came out of it healthy. He felt good. They even pushed him past the pitch count that they had before the game. Joe Espada said it would be around 75 or 80. He ended up throwing 87 pitches, and part of that was he got into a long 4th inning. Joe wanted him to finish that. He wanted him to get out of that, and he did. Like
He did. He got that strikeout.
Yeah, that was a strike. But borderline call, not even borderline, like it was in the strike zone. But as I kind of wrote, of course it ended on something completely out of his control, because that's kind of how this whole saga has been. Lance's body has betrayed him so much. He's not trying to get hurt. This has kind of been out of his control that he hasn't been able to pitch. And of course, his first start back ends with something that he can't control, but he'll be back out there in about 6 or 7 days. The rest of the pitching staff this weekend was okay. Hunter Brown did not have a good first inning, but rebounded after that and threw 5 really, really solid no-hit innings after that. Kind of did what you expect an ace to do. Did not have his best stuff. I think threw 25, 26 pitches in that first inning, but still got them through 6, still worked, pretty efficiently, pretty economically. And again, like Tyler, we don't have to keep saying it. Like, he's the ace of this team, and he's the guy that when he goes to the mound, the team knows that they're probably winning that day. And of course, the one game that they won this series, Hunter Brown was on the mound.
Yeah, I feel like we keep saying this. I don't even think Hunter Brown has had a good game this year, and he's one of the best pitchers in baseball. Like we haven't even seen a game where he comes out and it just looks effortless for him. He's really had to work in a lot of these starts, and then you look up and it's like, oh, 6 innings. This one was 3 runs, but a lot of times it's 0 runs, and he hasn't even had his best stuff. And so, I mean, that is just the definition of an ace, and he keeps showing it over and over again.
Yeah, and it's also like, it's not like he got hit around in that first inning. There was a lot of weak contact, some ground balls that had eyes. Vaughn blooped that ball in the shallow center for the 2-run single. Hunter even said after the game he was getting the contact he wanted. He was getting the results he wanted. Just sometimes baseball's a luck sport. Sometimes the balls just have eyes, find holes, find grass, and that's just is what it is. Framber Valdez did not pitch particularly well. I wouldn't say he was an abject disaster, but did not do what you expect Framber Valdez to do against what we just said is the worst lineup in baseball on Friday night. Tyler, we're going to talk a little bit more about Framber in a little while, but how would you just assess his season overall? Just what you have seen from him after 7 starts and kind of where he's at.
I mean, the thing with Framber, throughout his whole career has just been the inconsistency. There are games where, 4 batters in, you're like, uh-oh, we got, I see people on Twitter a lot. It's bad Framber today. And a lot of that is just his pitches move so much that it's hard for him to control. It's hard for the batters to hit. That's why you get so many weird, bloop hits and seeing eye singles and stuff. And sometimes those can bunch together. But I mean, he was getting hit hard in his start this week. But following the law of Framber, I mean, the game before he had a complete game loss. Then he had this start. So next game he's going 7 innings with 14 strikeouts. So everybody buckle up for that one. It's just kind of up and down. That's the roller coaster you have. It is concerning that the Astros are 2-5 in his starts so far this year. Especially when your rotation is as top heavy as it is. You're really relying on banking 70% of your starts from Brown and Framber being wins. And that just hasn't been the case for the Astros so far this year. You really don't want to lose back-to-back Framber starts against the Royals and the White Sox. That's not what you're wanting when you look back at the end of the year and, it's September and it's you're fighting over every game. Those are going to be the ones that you want back. But yeah, I mean, he hasn't been consistent, but that's also been the case most of his career. You just kind of have to take that with Framber. He's going to give you length, which is valuable in and of itself, as we've seen. Especially with now having McCullers in the rotation, and you're probably going to need more work from your bullpen. You've got other inexperienced guys in the starting rotation who don't typically last as long. So even the inconsistent Framber, when he can eat up 18 outs, that's just a big value add for any team. That's why Framber is so valuable.
I will keep harping on this because until this is rectified, I don't think we're going to see vintage Framber. The line drive rate on Framber Valdez's sinker is currently 30.2%. It was 24.5% last year, 23% the year before that. Framber Valdez is generating just 53% total ground ball contact this year. That sounds like a lot, and it is. But last year he generated 61.7% ground ball contact. His career average is 62.7%. Until the sinker starts having more downward movement and until the sinker starts getting hit on the ground and not on a line, I don't think we're going to see the vintage Framber that we just talked about. And Framber said something interesting after the game. We noticed his velocity was a little bit down. And again, Framber is not the sort of pitcher that relies on velocity. There's some pitchers when you see velocity down, you start to get worried. Framber, you don't. But we asked because he only threw, or StatCast said he only threw 20 sinkers against the White Sox, which would have been his lowest percentage of sinkers thrown since like 2018. And he said, well, actually, I threw more than 20 sinkers. They were registering as changeups because I was trying not to throw it as hard. He was trying not to throw the sinker as hard because he wanted to get the movement back to where he knows it can be. So, look, they know this is a problem. They're consciously trying to figure out ways to get the sinker to generate more ground balls. But that's kind of the thing with him. If you throw a sinker like he does and it doesn't sink, it is going to get struck on a line, hit on a line somewhere. And you saw that against the White Sox, and you've seen that all year. So it's easy to just come out and say that that's what needs to be fixed. And I don't think fixing this solely is going to fix everything, but it'll go a long way because Framber Valdez is a sinker baller. And if he doesn't have the sinker, it's kind of hard to overcome that. He does have a 3.78 FIP with a 4.39 ERA, so suggests there's been some batted ball misfortune for him, but you don't want to. This isn't a bad luck thing. Framber just needs to pitch better. He needs to get the sinker down in the zone and needs to get it figured out.
Yeah, the movement itself, looking at his Brooks baseball page, is not anything significantly different than it has been recently. It's the location. He's just not getting it down, below the knees as much as he has been. It's basically, the heat map is like 4 inches up from where it normally would be. He's throwing the same pitch. It's just not getting down in the same way, and that's why it's getting hit, because when the ball is sinking, if you're trying to swing at it when it starts at the knees and ends up in your shins, you're going to just ground it, directly into the dirt. But when it's starting at your belt and ending up at your knees, you're able to get some lift on it. You're able to make better contact. And that's what's happening to him. It's the same pitch. It's just not where he needs it to be right now.
We will talk more about Framber Valdez and his future right after a message from our friends at Foul Territory.
If you want to be bougie and have your own personal shopper, Hungry Root is actually the spot, and you can do it at an affordable price.
Yeah, without a doubt. And especially with my busy schedule with kids on the run all the time, baseball, gymnastics, I need a source that's going to get me going and my kids as well. So I'll pop in an easy chicken parm or grilled chicken, put it in a nice container, get it to go, and the kids are excited, and they're full, and they're nutritional, and it's ready to rock for their games.
There will be snacks that you have never heard of that you will immediately fall in love with. They will pick them out for you if you want. Obviously, you can go on there. You pick all of your preferences. Hungry Root gets the job done. Okay, FT fam, we love Hungry Root. Take advantage of this exclusive offer for a limited time. 40% off your first box plus a free item in every box for life at hungryroot.com/FT. That's code FT. hungryroot.com/FT. Code FT for 40% off your first box and a free item of your choice for life. The code is simple. It's 2 letters, FT.
So, Tyler, I don't know why this, I'm not going to say it got to me. I don't know why this, impacted me so much after this current Framber Valdez start. But I was asked a question in a mailbag in The Athletic last week about, would the Astros consider trading Framber Valdez at the deadline? And, I mean, it's pretty obvious that the answer is no, unless they are just completely out of it playoff-wise. They have no shot at a playoff berth. Then, obviously, they would. Then after Framber's start against the White Sox, my social media feeds my comments on stories were flooded with, they should trade him no matter what. They should trade him even if they're in it at the deadline, even if they're in first place. They need to trade him because they have so much pitching. They have Christian Javier, they have Luis Garcia, they have Spencer Arrighetti, Lance McCullers. You can get away with trading him. I can't get in these people's minds to figure out why they think this is a good idea. I understand Framber can be a polarizing figure, just given his kind of his inconsistencies, like we just talked about. Like he doesn't every time go out there and give you 7 innings of 1-run ball. But he is as consistent and durable a pitcher as this team has had in a very long time. And we're talking about him now as if, there's something drastically wrong when, like we just said, he's got a 4.39 ERA. He's thrown a complete game already. There's stuff he needs to fix, but I mean, they're not trading him. Like, they are not trading him if they are in it at the deadline for a number of reasons. But first of all, pitching depth dwindles in an instant. Like, Hayden Wesneski's going to pitch on Tuesday after they had to skip his start already with velo that was way, way down. Ryan Gusto is a rookie that's doing a nice job, but I'm not sure you can count on him for a full season. If you think Christian Javier or Luis Garcia are pitching meaningful innings for this team this year, I've got an oceanfront property in Arizona to sell you. And I think that is one thing. And then the other thing, think about what that does to a clubhouse. Like a clubhouse that at the time you get to the deadline is going to be scratching, clawing, fighting to stay in contention or fighting to stay atop the AL West. What does that tell your clubhouse when you trade one of your best players? And I know they did it in the offseason. And Tyler, we've talked about this. If they wanted to trade Framber Valdez, the time to do it was the offseason. And when they didn't do it then, his value is obviously going to diminish just because a team that would acquire him would only have 2 months of control. And you think Dana Brown's going to trade him to an American League team if their Astros are in contention? That would be so counterintuitive to trade him to a team that you may run up against in the wild card series of the ALDS. You're the fan here. Am I just completely off base or I can't wrap my mind around people wanting Framber Valdez traded at the deadline.
No, I mean, I obviously agree. When you have Framber Valdez on your team, you should keep him on your team. I think that's true of Kyle Tucker and Alex Bregman as well, but those are different stories. But like, who do you think you're getting back for half a season of Framber that's worth more than Game 2 and Game 6 of the ALCS this year?
Right.
You know, like what do you think you're going to get that could provide you anything close to what Framber could provide you for this season, this year? Teams aren't stupid. They're not going to trade generational prospects for half a season of Framber, even though he's going to command a huge contract after this. It's just you're not going to get anybody that is close to what you already have with Framber. Framber is a guy that you trade if you're 10 games out and there's no reason to keep that. And really what Framber's value is, like we said with the durability, is you get him at the deadline and you know you're getting 12 to 15 more quality starts in a pennant race, right? I mean, that's why you have him, is you know he's going to be out there every 5 days or every 6 days, and you know at the very least he's going to get you some innings. He's going to have most of those games be really good. He's going to have some that don't go well, and I think that's where people get frustrated, is thinking about the playoffs. They remember the games where he just didn't have it, and those games are just lost by the second inning because Framber just didn't have it that day. But I mean, for a down the stretch part of the season, like Framber is one of the archetypes of pitchers that you want to have when you're constructing a team. Somebody that you can consistently rely on, that gives your bullpen a break. All of those things that are really valuable over a long season. So yeah, no, I can't get behind that at all. I don't know what you would want with the Framber trade. That again, it's not like they have somebody that can replace him internally. You're not going to be excited about a playoff rotation that's Hunter Brown and whichever one of his friends are available to pitch behind him. So yeah, no, I'm with you. That trade makes no sense, and honestly, it would not only just from a numbers and analytics standpoint, it makes no sense, but like you said, try walking in a clubhouse and telling Jose Altuve on July 31st, we've traded Framber Valdez when we're 2 games out of the AL West. Like, what are you talking about? Like, you can't do that. These are human beings. You can't do that to a clubhouse.
Especially when you've already ignored his pleas to re-sign Alex Bregman and traded Kyle Tucker this offseason in a move that, while I think a lot of the clubhouse understood it from a business perspective, it still was not well received. I'd say they traded their best player. And when they're supposed to be still in contention, when the window's never supposed to close, according to Jim Crane, they traded their best player, and that was a difficult thing for a lot of these guys to grasp, to comprehend. And also, like, you're not like, I think everyone has seen Cam Smith and they're like, oh my goodness, we could get something. Like, you're not getting a Cam Smith for 2 months of Framber Valdez.
No, Kyle Tucker is better, and it was a whole year, and it was a team with a immense need for that particular player in that position. I mean, it was all of those things all at once, and yeah, you're not gonna just run into that again.
You're not going to get a major league guy that can help either, because inherently you are trading Framber Valdez to a contending national. Let's play this hypothetical. The Astros are going to trade Framber Valdez at the deadline, even if they're in it. They're trading him to a contending National League team. That'd be really the only suitor that would make sense for Dana Brown to look at. What contending National League team is going to give you a meaningful piece of their major league team in exchange for Framber? They're not going to weaken their major league team to get Framber Valdez if they're in contention. It makes no sense. The only way it makes sense is if the Astros are, like you said, 10 out, 10 or more out of the wild card, and they have no choice but sell and to recoup some value. Tyler, I think it stems back from like fans. Again, Josh has said it on this pod, and I think we both agree, like, this is a fan base that has gotten spoiled throughout this golden era, and they look at teams as if, can this team win the World Series? And you look at this team right now, and obviously a lot of people are like, yeah, no, this team is probably not the World Series favorite. They probably can't. This is not a team that you would pencil in to the ALCS of the World Series at this point. I think what has been underestimated is how much of a crapshoot the playoffs are. Like, once you get in, all it takes is getting. Like, look at the Tigers last year. The Tigers sold at the deadline, and still they got unreal hot in September. They had Tarek Skubal at the top of their rotation, and they have one of the best managers in baseball, and they turned that into a run to the ALDS. Look at the Nats. The Nats in 2019, they were 19-31. They got into the playoffs, snuck in. Look at the World Series 2 years ago. D-backs, Rangers, two teams that snuck in as wild cards, got hot, went to the World Series. This is all about getting in. Get into the playoffs and then see what happens. It's a crapshoot after that. I think a lot of this is coming from people that watch this team and say, oh, like, this team's not a World Series team, so we just gotta tear it down and start over. Like, am I misreading the situation here?
No, and think about the inverse of that. I mean, for the last decade and a half, the Dodgers have been, created in a lab to dominate baseball, and they've only won one real World Series since then. So it's not even like if you have the best team in the world. I mean, think about the 2019 Astros. That's the best team the Astros ever had, and they didn't win the World Series. So you just have to get there, and who helps you get there is a guy who throws 6 innings every fifth day and can really help your team. So if you're trying to get to the playoffs and have success, my suggestion is to have Framber Valdez on your team, especially if you already have him. It's a lot easier to do it that way.
Moving on from pitching, Tyler, do you want to guess who has the highest OPS among qualified Astros hitters?
I sure do. It's our buddy Guaranteed Rake, Jake Meyers.
Jake Meyers had the weekend of his life. On Saturday, he went 4 for 4, 2 homers, a triple, and a double. The first Astro to ever have that line, 4 for 4, 2 home runs, a double, and a triple. He drove in 7 runs, which is his career high. His 13 total bases matched an Astros club record. He did this all from the 9-hole, which is pretty remarkable. He drove in 7 runs on Saturday. Christian Walker has driven in 9 runs all season. Which kind of accentuates just the problem with this offense right now, that the guys that they need to produce are not producing. But when that is not happening, you need guys like Jake Meyers to go crazy for a week. You need a Cam Smith to go crazy, which he did. Cam Smith's gone crazy for a week. Like, these guys that you're not expecting offense from have to step up and step in. And, I think Jake Meyers, he's earning. I mean, not that we ever questioned that he was a center fielder, especially with the 2 corner infielders next to him. But I mean, he's guaranteed himself a longer runway. But we've seen this before. We've seen Jake have success in the first half. Tyler, what does he have to do to sustain it? What does he have to do to not fall off like he did last year?
Well, first off, it would be it's his swing decisions that he's had lately. He's just been a lot better at picking the pitches that he can do damage on. And it's interesting because you don't think of him as a slugger, but I think he is best when he goes into the box thinking of himself as a slugger instead of as a leadoff guy that's just like, I'm just trying to get the ball in play or whatever. Like, Jake, I don't need you to do that. I need you to wait, and by the 5th pitch, one of those is the one that you're looking for. And if you strike out looking, you strike out looking. I would much rather have that than you swing 4 times and either make weak contact or strike out swinging. Like, pick your pitch and wait on it, because the offense isn't relying on Jake Meyers to generate the bulk of their runs. But if you can set the table for the top of the lineup, or just drive them all in yourself, which was the strategy that he tried this weekend, and it worked out great. But I mean, we talked about it at the beginning of the year. Look, if Jake Meyers can hit 240, 250 and run into some pop every once in a while, he's a great player. He's so good at defense that's all he needs to do. And I mean, like I said, to maintain that success, you just have to be patient. He's obviously strong enough to turn on stuff, to hit it out of the park, to rip doubles and triples and all of those things. I need him to pick a pitch and wait on it and not try to make contact with everything, and just be patient up there, because he's going to get pitches to hit, because by the time you get to the back half of the lineup, doesn't matter if that it's a guy that can run into it. Pitchers just naturally go like, all right, this is the easy part. Let me start, grooving some stuff here. Or you don't have the same level of focus that you do as a guy in the 3-hole. So he's just going to get better pitches to hit, especially because they don't want to walk him because he's so good on the base pass. So they're like, let's make this guy beat us. And he has to know that the way that you beat the pitchers is you have to be patient. You have to wait and make those swing decisions. And he's been doing a great job of that.
Well, so here's the thing about Jake Meyers. He gets overshadowed by Altuve because Altuve does it so much, but Jake Meyers is probably the most ambush hitter in this lineup.
Yep.
He was before his triple on Saturday. He was 0 for 35 in 2-strike counts.
Yep.
He's a career 110 hitter when he gets behind 0-2 on a count. You look at the numbers, he is so much better when he either swings at the first pitch of a plate appearance or puts the first pitch of a plate appearance in play. Pitchers know this. Opponents can read Baseball Reference and Baseball Savant just like we can. They have more proprietary information that tells them more than that. But I think Jake has to strike a little bit better of a balance. Like, you can't be swinging at the first or second pitch every time, because like we've talked about, like, pitchers are going to adjust. Pitchers know that he swings early and counts. But also, like, he's got to be better against spin, because when he gets into 0-2 counts, when you get into 2-strike counts, what are put away pitches normally? It's breaking balls, it's off-speed pitches that he has not handled well. He can handle fastballs, but the spin has given him problems in his career. So I think it's finding that balance of not everything has to be on the first pitch. You don't have to be, even though stats and things tell you how well you do when you swing at the first pitch, that doesn't have to be your whole aesthetic. That doesn't have to be your whole, game plan. And you kind of look at the quality of his contact this year. He's hitting the ball harder than he ever has. He's got an average exit velo of 90.9 miles an hour, which is the hardest he's ever hit cumulatively in his career. His ground ball rate is almost 60%, which is high for him, obviously. But at the same time, he has the highest line drive rate of his career too. So he's not.
Yeah, his launch angle's way down from where it's been. But like you said, it's been a lot more line drives, just kind of hard hit contact.
Yeah, they've got to keep him off I know he's fast. I know he can beat out some ground balls, but even the fastest dudes are going to get thrown out on a random rollover to shortstop. So they've got to find a way to get him off the ground a little bit more. But I think the fact that he is not hitting many pop-ups, he's not hitting a ton of just sky high fly balls, I think that is encouraging. And I think it certainly shows that maybe this is a little bit sustainable if he can, again, refine the approach a little bit to not be this total ambush, swing at the first thing you see, because that's what history tells you should do. But also understanding that when he gets into a 2-strike count, he's got to fight and he's got to battle. That's why I thought the triple on Saturday was such a good play and a good encouraging sign from him. That was a 10-pitch at bat. Fouled off, I believe, 5 2-strike pitches, got to a full count, got a cookie over the middle, and hit it in the left center field for a triple. So he was a bright spot this weekend. Not much else was offensively. Yordan Alvarez did not play the last 2 games with what the Astros are describing as inflammation in his right hand. They didn't send him for imaging because they didn't think he needs it, which would suggest to me that they don't think this is serious. But Alvarez has had minor hand things before. Joe Espada said he'd been dealing with this for a little while, and just tried to hit before the game on Saturday, didn't feel good, and they just decided to shut it down then. So they played the last 2 games without their most feared hitter in the lineup. Jose Altuve continues to really, really scuffle since going to really for a while now, since that hot start. He has not looked himself. Just, you can tell he's in one of those ruts where he's chasing hits. He's swinging it a lot. He's swinging at everything, striking out a lot. He gets in these ruts, and this happens every year, but you kind of have faith in his track record that he'll find a way out of it. I think one encouraging thing, though, Tyler, was that Yainer Diaz, you started to see some signs of life. He's 10 for his past 25 with 3 extra base hits. Really looks like he's getting on one of his runs that, again, it's going to be a while before his season stats normalize, but it was nice to see Yainer Diaz hit the ball hard, hit the ball up the middle, and get some rewards for it.
Yeah, and I mean, we know this, but he's so strong. He had one of those, I forget if it was Friday or Saturday, but he reached for a ball off the plate away, and to me it looked like he had popped up to center field, and it ended up bouncing off the fence in center field. I mean, he can get into him, which is why he swings at everything, obviously. But yeah, certainly looking good to have some consistency there from Yainer, to see that turning around. One thing about Jake Meyers too, I wanted to point out, is that his career average on breaking balls has hovered around 160, 170. He's hitting 310 on breaking balls this year, which is pretty crazy. So I don't know if it's an approach change, or he's seeing the ball better, or maybe he's looking at the scouting report and knows maybe people are going to try to get these over on me in the first 1 or 2 pitches because they know I sit fastball, whatever it is. But he's making a ton of contact on breaking balls, which is why he's been a lot more dangerous than before. But yeah, I mean, like you said, Geiner's heating up. I need Altuve and Jordan to start hitting. It's about time. We've been here a month now. It needs to start happening soon.
Jose Altuve went 2 for 4 in that 14-3 outlier game they had against the Angels on April 11th. In 75 at bats since, he has 14 hits. 10 of them have been singles. He has a 501 OPS and 17 strikeouts across those 19 games. So, look, obviously Christian Walker's he's wearing a lot of the criticism. Yainer Diaz was until this weekend a little bit. Jordan Alvarez certainly not immune from it, but Jose Altuve's got to produce too. And he looked this weekend like he's in one of those just funks where it looks like you wonder how this guy is going to have 3,000 hits, and then what automatically follows these, right? He's going to get like 15 hits and 18 plate appearances, and everything will be back to normal because that's Jose Altuve.
I have to imagine that pitch that he struck out on yesterday, it probably would have been behind a left-handed hitter. It was so far outside. That's got to be one of the furthest outside pitches he's swung at in his career. It was way out there. So yeah, certainly need to see him step it up here.
Also, Zach DeZenzo.
Mm-hmm.
Look at him. He hit the hell out of that ball on Sunday. 108 off the bat, first homer. One thing we did see this weekend, Cam Smith sat on Saturday and Sunday in favor of Zach DeZenzo. I asked Joe Espada if Cam Smith was healthy, if it was a situation where they wanted to sit him and to, like they did earlier in the year, sit him to maybe work on some stuff with the hitting coaches for a couple days. And he said, no, he's healthy. Just want to get DeZenzo more at bats. And that's kind of how it is. I mean, Cam Smith when they put him on the roster, there were no guarantees that he was going to play every day. There were no guarantees that they had to have him in the lineup no matter what. Now that they're in the season, they're going to play the 9 guys that give them the best chance to win. They're going to play the 9 guys that raise the floor of this lineup, especially now, as much as it can. And right now, Zach DeCenzo is that guy, and Cam Smith isn't.
Yeah, he did have quite the error in right field yesterday that led to a lot of runs. But yeah, he's been hitting a lot better. I was very nervous later in the game when there was a pop up to Altuve in left field, and you could see him with the rain coming down. I could almost like hear his inner monologue of like, I've never done this before. I've never been in outfield with the rain coming down on me. And, he's just kind of looking out there. But you can't hold one off error against somebody like that. I mean, DeCinzo is not nearly as natural in the outfield as Cam Smith has been, but he's been hitting, and you got to get him in the lineup for sure. Paredes finally had a day off. You wonder if, DeCinzo could maybe even get some playing time at the corner spots too, because, he's obviously had those chances there before. Maybe even have days where you could have Paredes at second, DeCinzo at third on your fly ball pitcher days where you're not too concerned about infield defense, just to get another bat in the lineup. But yeah, I mean, the role player guys had a good weekend, but you lose a series because Framber's not, he didn't have his best start. Then your bullpen comes in. That's been really, really good, but blew a lead yesterday. And then your stars aren't hitting. But your role player guys are doing it relatively well right now.
Real quick, can you name 5 Milwaukee Brewers that are not Christian Yelich?
Astros legend Daz Cameron, I believe, is on the team.
He is. Wow, I didn't know that.
I don't know why I know that, but I do. The other NL Central catcher, Contreras.
Yes.
Right? I always get him and what's his name from the Cardinals?
Wilson is on the Cardinals. William is on the Brewers.
Yes. So, gosh, I don't even know. That's probably about it. I don't know. Who else should I know on the team?
Jackson Churio is really good.
Yeah.
Bryce Terang also was a top prospect, very good player. Jose Quintana is on the Brewers.
Okay.
Interesting. Freddie Peralta.
Sure.
Freddie Peralta is their current B-WAR leader. I have never heard of the 3 pitchers that the Astros are facing this week, with Tobias Myers, Chad Patrick, and Quinn Priester. I'm sure they're all very nice young men. The Astros will face them this week at what used to be Miller Park. I think it's AmFam Field, American Family Field is what we're calling it. They have the slide in left field that the mascot will slide down if the Astros give up any home runs. So again, like we talked about with Josh, the Brewers are they're the NL Rays. Like you said, you couldn't really name a ton of them, but they find a way. They're right at 500 right now, playing in a very competitive division. So the Astros, it's not going to be easy here. I mean, they just lost a series to the worst team in the American League, so they can come in and expect nothing and anticipate nothing easy. So we'll have I'll be in Milwaukee all 3 games, and we'll bring you some analysis during and after this series with the Brewers before the Astros start a homestand with the Reds and the Royals. You can follow me on X if you so choose at Chandler_Rome. You can follow Tyler at Tyler C. Stafford. Please rate and review Crush City Territory on Apple. Please subscribe on YouTube so you can get alerted every time we post a new video. And we will talk to you guys soon. Thanks for listening.
Bye.